can't be so happy to change it that you up your life. You know how many celebrities went to Diddy's house thinking they was finna dance?
When you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the Puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never gonna be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there.
This isn't just another Diddy scandal. This is two men, one a comedic prophet, the other a Hollywood A-lister, finally saying what everyone else only whispers. Katt Williams warned us. Terrence Howard lived it. And now they're done staying quiet. For years, they were called crazy, angry, difficult. But maybe the real reason they were blackballed is because they refused to play the game. The private invitations, the strange rooms at the mansion, the price no one talks about until now. The stories have circled for years, whispered in green rooms, hinted at in interviews, passed around like secrets too dangerous to speak out loud. A-list parties with no phones allowed, black SUVs pulling up at midnight, private rooms behind the private rooms, and a strange kind of invitation that didn't always feel like a choice. But for a long time, that's all they were, stories. Until Terrence spoke up.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to f you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands-off with somebody.
In March 2024, federal agents raided Diddy's homes in LA and Miami. They found surveillance systems, dozens of NDAs, and, according to reports, over 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Diddy's lawyer tried to explain it away, claiming he bought them at Costco. Costco themselves came forward and denied ever selling it. That detail, strange as it sounds, echoed something fans of Katt Williams had already heard years earlier.
You can't be so happy to change shit that you up your life. You know how many celebrities went to Diddy's house thinking they was finna dance? How does that feel? You a grown-ass man. You gotta leave Diddy's party like that. You can't even sit down in the car. You gotta drive all the way home, standing up. Whew. Can't roll the window down. You roll the window down, that breeze hit that open hole and start blowing and you start saying, 1,000 bottles of baby oil. It ain't that much ass in the world. Everybody know that. Diddy's dumbass lawyer said he probably got it at Costco. I didn't say it too much. Said I wasn't gonna do this. I was just gonna tell my jokes, get the up out of here. But 1,000 bottles of baby oil? It wasn't just what they found. It's what they didn't find. It was 233 cameras in that house. In one house. But what didn't they find? It wasn't one Bible in that. Wasn't no living plants in that motherfucker. Wasn't no vitamins. And and no handcuff keys.
To some, it sounded like a wild punchline, but to others, it was a warning. Because for Katt, this wasn't just about one man. It wasn't just about Diddy. It was about a pattern, a ritual, baked into the machinery of fame itself. When you're famous enough and protected enough, the rules bend. And when no one's watching, or when everyone's too scared to speak, those private parties turn into pressure cookers. Power becomes the currency, and silence becomes the contract. In Hollywood, there's a myth we all love to believe, that talent rises, that hard work gets rewarded, that the best man wins. But behind the scenes, there's another reality. Sometimes, the only way to rise is to say yes, and sometimes the only way to survive is to say no. Terrence Howard said no, not just once, but every time the industry came with quiet proposals and private invitations. And every time he refused, another door closed.
Number of producers coming to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. You know, when you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're gonna get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing. And have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man card means everything.
He didn't play gay roles. He didn't fake the flirt. He didn't take the money and look away. And as the roles dried up and the headlines twisted his name, the silence from the industry was loud. Turned down cash. He turned down comfort, safety, superstardom. He turned down the fast track in exchange for telling the truth. And the price of that decision wasn't just missed checks or pulled roles, it was targeted press hits, late-night mugshots, rumors crafted to erase credibility, and questions designed to make him look unhinged. To speak out is one thing. To keep speaking after they try to bury you, that's something else entirely. These men didn't just say no to parties, they said no to a machine. And that kind of defiance doesn't go unpunished.
They don't want him or me or people like us.
Yeah.
But now it's not necessary for us to stir up that hornet's nest unless we intend to get stung a million times. I didn't understand that. They had to sting me a million times.
Right.
I'm still not going to join, but I respect it a little more.
All right. How do you handle that? Because they put your name in the press with a lot of rumors and a lot of situations that they try to put on Katt Williams. Do you feel ever the need to, like, I gotta go defend this and put out a story about who I am, or do you just let that kind of like roll off your back when
Well,
people...
as you can see, I've let it all go for quite some time, and a lot of that is just based upon the fact that I don't really know how to complain because all of the people that I ever looked up to had to go through it too. So I know how much they talked about Martin Luther King, and I know what they end up doing to him. I know this same story about Jesus and a few of my uncles. So now I know that if your mouth is really, really big and you try to tell the truth for a living and you like to air people out, hatred is coming your way. I didn't know it was going to be this type of hatred, but you know, I'm concrete in all things because of He who strengthens me. So that doesn't mean I always make the right decisions, but I am going to stand by what I stand for.
It's easy to laugh when Katt Williams makes these wild, chaotic claims on stage. It's easy to think he's exaggerating, just another comedian going off script. But when the headlines catch up to the punchlines, suddenly the jokes don't feel that funny anymore. They start to feel like warnings we didn't listen to, because Katt's not just talking about parties or preferences. He's describing a system built on silence, secrecy, and submission, where power isn't just flexed, it's ritualized.
These things that I'm saying in Hollywood exist in religious circles, in politics, in the medical profession. If it's car theft and we're going to accuse you of having a carjacking ring, right? We're going to begin by bringing in people that we caught.
When Diddy's homes were raided in 2024, the media focused on the baby oil. the NDAS, the surveillance systems. But Katt saw something different. He saw a chessboard. He saw how one powerful figure gets squeezed to pressure everyone else in the circle. That's not just a joke anymore. That's a confession wrapped in comedy. And it's not just about baby oil. It's about how normal gets weaponized, how innocence becomes a cover, and how the game plays you while you think you're just networking. Because these aren't just eccentric habits or isolated events. They're rituals, patterns, and the moment you start seeing them, you can't unsee them. You flip the pawns to get the king. Or maybe flip the king to catch the rest. And in Katt's world, that's not speculation. That's strategy.
I understand what is worth doing for ratings. I understand what is worth doing when the industry is canceling one black guy. I know what happens when they are going to elevate another. And I know what happens when they don't care about either of them. This is how quarterbacking go. So the question is, hey, your quarterback just got sacked. Did we know we was fin to sack your quarterback? We absolutely did. It was a play, buddy. We've been rehearsing it, working it out, making sure that at some point, when you get to this level, we can make sure we knock you from a $20 million man to putting in the news that people won't hire you no more and your career is done. Yeah.
So you said it was a setup.
In most industries, when someone exposes corruption, they get protected. In Hollywood, they get erased, labeled bitter, crazy, problematic, not because they're lying, but because the truth breaks the illusion. And nobody breaks the illusion like Katt Williams. They put the D's in the baby oil, Williams added. You think you getting a massage, B? You can't even get up. That's why God gave me eczema. I can't even use baby oil.
They put the in the baby oil. You thinking you getting a massage, you can't even get up. That's why God gave me eczema. I can't even use baby oil.
That's not just a joke anymore. That's a confession wrapped in comedy. And it's not just about baby oil. It's about how normal gets weaponized, how innocence becomes a cover, and how the game plays you while you think you're just networking. Because these aren't just eccentric habits or isolated events. They're rituals, patterns, and the moment you start seeing them, you can't unsee them. According to insiders who've worked around these circles, this kind of behavior is part of a repeated system, a quiet rite of passage, dressed up as luxury, access, and opportunity. One source anonymously spilled the beans saying, you don't get in the room unless you know how to shut up about what you saw last time you were in the room. Another source close to the investigation said, there's a reason NDAs are passed out before drinks, not after.
What I'm saying is, in business, nothing is coincidental or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they this $20 million guy, but they reaped $60 million in benefits.
Wow.
And they had some people from your city do it.
Wow.
I'm saying there's the good side and the bad side of these businesses.
In other industries, professionalism is the gatekeeper. In Hollywood, it's obedience. And according to multiple insiders, including former assistants, party planners, and even security staff, humiliation isn't just tolerated, it's curated. Because if they can get you to give up your dignity once, they know they can own your silence forever. That's not conspiracy, that's control. And when someone refuses to play along, they're not just rejecting a party invite, they're rejecting the machine. But not everyone had the guts to do it. In 2013, Kevin Hart walked onto the Saturday Night Live stage, wearing a bright wig, high heels, and a full dress. It was framed as just another sketch, just another joke. But shortly after that performance, something changed. Kevin Hart wasn't just famous, he became a global brand. His films skyrocketed, his Netflix deals landed, and just like that, he became safe to the machine. Katt Williams, who had the spotlight, the heat, the crowd, was being erased in real time. Not because he couldn't deliver, but because he said no. no to the dress, no to the ritual, no to the unspoken contract.
Let's be very, very clear. It is possible that there isn't anything funnier than a guy in a dress. And if that's the case, then it might also be said that there's nothing funnier than a black guy in a dress. Okay, well, I watched all of my friends throughout my entire life be able to dunk a basketball, but not me. So everybody can't do everything. So, you know, some of us make choices. I think it's not a biggest choice for others. I'm saying at the end of the day, Kevin doesn't have to worry about what people are gonna say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress wearing people before him. So now we had Big Mama's house 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I've never seen Medea in a pantsuit. I think she wears dresses. So now I'm saying, why are we picking on poor little Kevin Hart? Because it was his turn next.
Okay.
Some of us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, nobody likes them. End quote.
He didn't just lose roles, he lost momentum. And once the machine realized he wouldn't play ball, they rewrote the story. Suddenly he was unstable, hard to work with. The rumors spread faster than the truth ever could. And behind all of it, he carried the weight of things he wasn't supposed to know.
They don't want him or me or people like us.
Yeah.
But now it's not necessary for us to stir up that hornet's nest unless we intend to get stung 1,000,000 times. I didn't understand that. They had to sting me 1,000,000 times.
Right.
I'm still not gonna join, but I respect it a little more.
All right. How do you handle that? Because they put your name in the press with a lot of rumors and a lot of situations that they try to put on Katt Williams. Do you feel ever the need to, like, I gotta go defend this and put out a story about who I am, or do you just let that kind of like roll off your back when
Well,
people...
as you can see, I've let it all go for quite some time, and a lot of that is just based upon the fact that I don't really know how to complain because all of the people that I ever looked up to had to go through it too. So I know how much they talked about Martin Luther King, and I know what they end up doing to him. I know this same story about Jesus and a few of my uncles. So now I know that if your mouth is really, really big and you try to tell the truth for a living and you like to air people out, hatred is coming your way. I didn't know it was gonna be this type of hatred, but you know, I'm concrete in all things because of he who strengthens me. So that doesn't mean I always make the right decisions, but I am gonna stand by what I stand.
Kevin Hart wasn't the only one who said yes. In Hollywood, saying yes isn't just about roles or dresses. It's about joining the circle, the one behind the curtain, the one where power is traded in favors, secrets, and silence. Everybody wants to be part of the elites, but nobody climbs that ladder without a ritual. White, clean, successful on paper, but he never broke through to the mainstream. According to Katt, it's not about skin color, it's about who you bow to. There's a cabal, a consortium. They let in who they let in. And if you're not willing to participate, if you don't want to play the game, you'll stay outside the gates no matter how hard you work. When Katt tried to call it out, they didn't thank him, they didn't protect him, they silenced him, they mocked him, and behind closed doors, they made sure his phone stopped ringing. In public, he was just another angry comedian. But in private, when he walked into what they said, they knew he didn't sell out. And in Hollywood, that's not a badge of honor, that's a threat. Katt's not vague about it. There are alliances, power circles, networks that protect their own and freeze out anyone who won't join. And the deeper you go, the darker it gets. Insiders say sacrifice is baked into the system. Sometimes it's your integrity, sometimes your silence, and sometimes it's something you don't even understand until
things are handled when it's not intentional. When things go smoothly, but they seem chaotic, that means there was forethought and a plan. Somebody, even if it looks like, yeah, Janet Jackson just had a wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, there's no such thing.
Correct.
I don't care who you blame.
I believe that.
Somebody benefited. Yeah. So in all of these situations, there's a business involved and there's real money involved. and somebody's benefiting from this thing that looks like, oh, that just happened. Nah, no way. No way. It would be hard for a homeless guy to get into the Hollywood Bowl, let alone a homeless guy be able to rush the stage and actually.
So you're saying same for Dave Chappelle and this random homeless person. I thought the same thing. I'm like, how did he rush the stage? I've been to Hollywood Bowl. How do you rush the stage?
Look. This is the business. We're in the business where make-believe happens, where the job is to have something that costs 9 cents for us to make, and we sell it for $4.99 to you for a good deal. And it's okay that it costs us 9 cents. But in this business, the star is the commodity. These are real people, real lives. When you see things happen and you don't have all of the information, there is a business where they fiddle with the perception of the people, and that's part of the job. Back in the day, it used to be called propaganda. Now it's just called business. They don't say we got to smear the candidate, they smear them. Whoever made you is who is qualified to break you. That's the end of it. When they bought you and put you on that Fox show, it was because you were going to do this and only this. You'll never do that. As soon as you breach that, they done with you too.
Some wear the dress, sign the NDA, take the role, go to the room, and come out with everything they ever wanted. Fame, power, money. But what happens when the industry is done with you? What happens when the cost catches up?
Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose.
Terrence didn't name names to stir drama. He spoke like someone who's seen what people give up to get that door and what they lose once they're inside. It's not just roles or careers, it's your manhood, your sense of self, your peace. Once you give up that line, that principle, that part of yourself you thought was untouchable, you can't pretend it didn't happen. The machine doesn't give refunds, and that's when the breakdown begins. Justin Bieber isn't just a superstar, he's a product, one of the machine's biggest exports. But the signs of wear have been visible for years. The spirals, the shutdowns, the breakdowns on stage, in interviews, in front of fans. Terrence wasn't speculating, he was calling it. These aren't spoiled celebrities. These are people trying to forget the price they paid. Some get therapy, some get D's. Some never come back from it.
I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything.
When you hear stories like this, stories buried under years of silence, scandal, and strategy, it becomes clear that the real danger isn't just the system itself. It's how easily we ignore the people who try to warn us about it. Katt Williams was mocked, memed, and branded crazy for a decade. Terrence Howard was pushed aside and painted difficult. And now that the dust is starting to settle, it's becoming harder and harder to deny that these two men weren't just telling stories, they were sounding alarms. The industry they walked away from still hasn't changed. It still rewards obedience, punishes truth, and feeds on silence. But now, the silence is cracking. And whether it happens through an interview, a podcast, or something even bigger, the moment these two decide to tell it all, without filters or handlers or networks to answer to, That will be the day the machine starts to shake. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, FAM, keep it real.